I shot my first feature and have worked with people like Sean Hannity and Jamie Kennedy. Now I help others figure it out. Let's go.
Chris, thank you for joining us today, my friend. How are you doing, sir?
Good, and thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I'm going to get the celebrity question out of the way right away. Of the celebrities you met, who was the coolest?
I would say Vanilla Ice, for sure.
Yes, I love Vanilla Ice.
Did you have...
I was hoping you would say Vanilla Ice.
I have nothing after that one. Did you ask him if he likes ice in his water and be like, ice, ice, baby?
Ice, baby.
I just have to ask these weird ones. So, Chris, you do a lot of things. You do commercial work and all these other, you're doing this film. And when I looked at your feature film on YouTube, I'll share the link in a second for everybody. But like, you are about change. You're about being like bringing attention to things just like we are here. How do you feel with this cancel culture and what do you want to see change about it?
I think what I've kind of discovered through this process, and I kind of see this more or less as a discovery rather than like I'm trying to go into it with an open mind. And so what I realize is that I think comedy is kind of like the barometer for culture as far as the freedom of speech is kind of the way I see it. And I feel like when you start trying to control people based on, you said earlier, it's great to disagree with each other, but you don't have to be ugly. That's basically kind of the point to this whole thing is that like, we're not always going to agree with what each other believe or what each other have to say about certain topics, but we should have the right to be able to say them, to be able to discuss them. But, you're seeing this increasing, thing happening in culture where people are being canceled just because they say something that might be slightly offensive to maybe a minority of the population. And I kind of is probably the greatest concern to me is just the freedom of speech that I feel like is kind of being squashed right before our eyes, basically.
What is the whole setup with the documentary? What is it that you're trying to where you're trying to get with your documentary that you're making on the cancer culture, and how do you get the stand-up comedy and link the stand-up comedy with something that's serious?
Yeah, I guess what my hope is just to bring more awareness to the issues. I guess like the thing that concerns me the most is that there's a lot of people who don't even really think that there's an issue, that there's some people now, like I said, I'm trying to be open-minded with it. So I want there to be a dialogue. I'm not looking to create like an echo room or an echo chamber where I'm giving you the opinion that you should believe. And so I want to basically be able to provide you with all of the scenarios and the experiences of these comics and be able to decide for yourself whether or not you feel like, was this a good thing or a bad thing? And so a lot of the comedians, it's kind of like, it's interesting what we've seen so far. Some guys realize that there is a serious problem. Dave Chappelle being one of them. I mean, you guys heard the recent thing with his stand-up where he's just being roasted over it. And used to, like, comedy was kind of like a protected species almost, it was like, they can kind of say, oh, they're just joking around. I mean, that was kind of crass, but what are you going to say? He's a comic, that's just what they do. And I realized that comedians are actually very smart people. I know it's kind of funny to think that, like, because you think of them as more of the class clown, but when you really talk to a lot of them, you realize that they've got a lot going on upstairs, like philosophically. Like that's why they're able to create these jokes, because they're able to observe society and then they kind of see things that are happening, and then they're able to take them and repackage them into something that is going to make us laugh, because we all know that it's true. They say certain things and we're like, oh, that's funny because it's true. And that's a meme that's going around, that's funny because it's true. And so I think that a lot of these comedians they see a lot because they travel the country. And so you have like these areas of culture, like you have like, culture as in the North American culture and even the worldwide culture, but then you get smaller and smaller, and cultures vary as you get, more microscopic on a level. So when they're traveling to Detroit and they're also traveling to Central Florida. They're not going to be able to use the same jokes. And so there's a lot of science behind comedy that people don't realize, that it takes for a comic to stand on stage and realize, okay, this joke isn't landing. And they're trying to feel out the well, good comics do this. The bad comics don't do this, and that's why they're bad comics. But they're able to read the room and they're able to say, okay, this is not working. Why? And then so they are able to pivot. And to me, that shows a vast intelligence to be able to do something like that.
I agree. And I think that having that connection with the room, to read a room is really hard. It's very difficult. And I am good friends with a lot of comics in Cleveland, Ohio, and Dave Chappelle lives in Ohio. And so it's kind of fun because like he does these stand-up shows down south of us and all that. But one of the things that everybody said was the minute COVID happened, and everybody had to go to behind their computers, the comedy kind of fell away a little bit. You're not able to read a room the way you could standing there with a mic and all that. And that's when cancel culture started to step in a little more. And I look at that as like, we're all behind a computer screen. I think people feel more comfortable being jerks. Is the best way I could say it, is they want to find that reason to complain. They're looking for that reason to be out there and find a reason to get that person upset. With comedy, it's meant to be that distraction to laugh and bring attention to things that maybe weren't brought to the attention of others. Have you noticed that as this has gone on and you're making these films, you've had to watch what you put in your films a little bit more and change them because of cancel culture?
Yeah, I think especially for this project, I'm trying to be sensitive to the comics that we are interviewing because they have careers and I'm not looking to destroy anyone's career. Again, I'm just trying to create more awareness and hopefully be able to allow these men and women to be able to continue their careers is really the big thing. Is like, are these guys an endangered species? We don't really know yet. I think, but I think you're right. I think definitely behind the keyboard, people are different. They tend to be different people. Like you meet them, especially the ones that are like the ones that are introverted that don't really express themselves. I know you're not an introvert just from watching you, Brandon.
So actually I am. Like
Are you really?
So literally after this show is done, I do a meeting with my team and then I have to be alone for 90% of the day.
Wow.
And I come out here to do this because I have learned that extrovert personality that I have, I love to make people laugh. I'll put a onesie on. I don't give a crap. I'll go put my unicorn one on if you want, Chris. But the thing is, I always was the guy behind the scenes making everybody feel good. And when I learned that this energy I put out really helps people be positive, I had to learn how to refill myself. And that's where the introverted part came in. And it sounds really weird, but the truth is I could do this and then shut down and not talk to anybody for the rest of the day. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I love that you put that out there.
That's interesting because I've noticed that a lot of times comics can sometimes be introverts, which is kind of strange because you see them acting a certain way on stage. I think Brian Regan is one of them that has mentioned it on stage that he's not really good in smaller crowds. And so it's very strange that they can get on stage in front of tens of thousands of people and turn on this personality that captivates people for, an hour or so. So that is interesting. But yeah, like you have to kind of decompress. Like for me, being around people is what gives me energy because I'm more extroverted. But I do have moments of introversion. I don't think we're all one thing, of course. Like, that would be kind of, I think it'd be a boring world if we were all one thing. So we're not like monolithic in that way. But I think that, I like being around other people. But for people like you, it sounds like the energy is almost drained from you and you have to recharge by being alone. Is that right?
Exactly. So like I come out here and like the push-ups, like you saw me drop down right before you came in. I'm a Browns fan. So first off, right off the bat, I'm getting made fun of, like, and I'm on here going, I'm going to bet you guys that the Browns win this week. And then they lose. And every point they lose by, I have to do 22 push-ups to bring awareness to veteran suicide in the US. And so I'm doing this to help, but like, Oh my God, I don't want to be doing push-ups. You see the comments coming in. Everybody's like, Brandon, you sound like you're doing inappropriate things. Oh my God. And I love that we get these jokes going, because I would rather put myself in a situation to make everybody laugh,
Right.
see that I'm doing something positive,
Yeah.
and then turn around and have some fun with it and give you guys the chance to like my bet this week. We switched it. If the Browns win, I have to do push-ups. But if they lose, everybody who bet me on air has to do the push-ups.
Oh, okay.
So that way I really have a gut feeling they're going to win this week. And that sucks because that means I'm going to be doing more push-ups, even though I switched it. So, but that is why I do what I do. And that time alone has spent a lot of time looking inside. And I know the comedians I've talked to, they'll be on stage and they can captivate an audience, like you said. But once they're done, they're like in the back and they want to go home. They want to get away from everybody. And I've noticed that's kind of how I am. And I didn't know that for years. I just kept being this outgoing, hey, how you doing? I'm the Browns guy. I'm Cleveland, blah, blah, blah. And just making people laugh. But it's not that. I needed to be able to reset myself so I can put that out here and give this every morning. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're hitting a great topic. So,
well, I prefer conversation. I'm not here to kind of give a speech or anything like that. So I appreciate the feedback.
Where are you at right now? Just curious.
I'm in my house. You mean in?
Well, I'm going to teach you sign language. This is asshole now. I'm just kidding, Chris. But like, what country are you in? How's that? Like,
okay. Yeah. No, I'm in Central Florida. I'm not too far away from Disney.
Oh, okay, cool. Are you
Orlando area?
Are you a Mickey fan?
It's funny. I was born and raised here, and I it's been at least 15, 20 years since I've even been to Disney.
I get it. I just was curious.
I'm a big Mickey fan, big enough for everybody, so you don't have to be a Mickey fan.
There you go.
Look at her hair. Look at her hair today. She did that just because you were on here, I'm guessing.
It's the ears, so that I can hear you better. I want to know, you've worked with so many big names. I mean, from South Africa, I watched that County Chopper where they build those things. Of all the famous people that you worked with, who has given you the best piece of advice?
That's a good question. I think probably it was people don't know who he is, but he's been in the business for a long time as a producer. He originally gave me the advice of, he says, make a movie. I was asking him, I was like, I want to get into film and narrative. I'm doing commercial now, but I'd like to kind of express myself through a narrative project. And he said, what you need to do is make a feature film. And he said, even if it sucks, just make it. He's like, so that you can get over that like learning experience. And so that was probably some of the best, advice, because I don't know if I would have made a feature film as quickly as I did, because literally about 8 to 10 months later, I was working on my feature film after having that conversation with him. So, yeah.
Quick thing. Are you married or with anybody? Because it seems like you have people when they go to Disney, they want to stay with you now that they know you're that close. Just making sure we got Britt's a nice girl. She's really sweet. She'll cook for you. She also has a tent from what I understand. So she'll camp out back, buddy. You don't just give her the backyard, we
got a big backyard. So, yeah.
There we go. Perfect. See, that way we create boundaries because you don't need that other stuff. I noticed a comment from one of our loyal listeners, Panda, and while it's long, they're explaining how the mean jokes express themselves and make them feel more comfortable, because making jokes that are off limits makes them feel different and off. And it's the wrong button. And I think that's what a lot of comedians do. And now we're pulling away from that. With you making this documentary, how do you see it affecting these comedians? Are you seeing less comedians, people want to go into the comedy realm? Or are you seeing people just like holding their jokes back? Or even the opposite? Are they coming at it even harder? And that, like Dave Chappelle did, his most recent one that he's getting ridiculed for, a lot of people think is going to get removed from Netflix because of some of the stuff he said. And I laugh at that. I'm like, really? That's where we're headed? Right. So what are you seeing being firsthand into this?
Well, what's interesting is I actually heard 50. How do you say it? 50 Cent. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Good
I'm not
enough.
a young one, but I've got a 14-year-old son, so he would be able to tell me how you say it. But I heard him being interviewed, and he was saying that like rap is like one of the few places where people can still express themselves and not get canceled over it. And I was kind of thinking about that, and I was like, that's interesting. So it's like almost like in a succession. It's like you have comedy, and if comedy falls, then what's next? Rap, I guess. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like one of those things where it's a never-ending thing. It'll just continue until we all realize that we're handcuffed and we can't say anything. To anybody. And so, but I think that what I'm hearing some comics say is that they do pull back on some of their jokes because of it. There were jokes that they used to tell that they can no longer tell. Then I heard a comedian, we were interviewing Jeff Allen, and he was saying that he's been in the business for like since the 70s. And so Jeff was saying that he got a really mean, nasty comment on one of his jokes, and he was talking about, a steward and on a plane ride, and he was kind of talking with an effeminate accent when he was delivering, I guess, him as a character in his joke. And someone was basically saying, well, why are you making fun of homosexual people? And he says, well, first of all, I never said he was homosexual. That was actually something that you added to the conversation. I was just saying he was, an effeminate person. And if you've never seen an effeminate guy on a flight, then you don't fly enough.
Very true.
Like, that's true.
That's so true. That's a good, and the joke lands and hits the hypocrisy of what they're saying. I like that a lot. By the way, I apologize. Apparently, there has now been a vote that they're having a viewer sleepover at your house. It's confirmed. Bob wants to know if you have space in your garage for Bullwinkle. That's his motorcycle. And for Ilsa
as well.
So South Africa, you're gonna come?
She's moving to the U.S. soon.
Yes.
Oh, are you?
Yes, I am. I've been working for 2 years, and we're almost at the end. We're almost there. What you've
been working on for 2 years?
Trying to get that side, because when I decided to go to that I want to come to America, it was like smack bam in the middle of COVID, and it's like, and it's South Africa, the one that's on the list that nobody wants in their country. I'm like, we're not that bad. Just let me in, I promise. Yeah, so I've got my visa appointment on the 25th of Jan, and then after that I'll probably fly into America. Yes.
Very cool. And I've met several South Africans. You guys have a very distinct accent.
We do. No, I know. They say in South Africa we speak English with an accent.
Yeah,
that's what they call it, because there's nobody here that can pronounce anything correct.
And the Australians love to make fun of you too.
Yeah, but we make fun of them as well, because we're better at rugby. We beat them in the World Cup 3 times.
There you go. Bragging rights.
You got it. What was your favorite project that you've worked on in your career?
My favorite project. I worked on a cartoon one time, and it was like some people in the Caribbean wanted. It was like a television station in the Caribbean wanted some content for their station, and. And so I asked the guy, the kind of the middleman, if we could make a cartoon, because I wanted to do something with comedy in it. And he was like, yeah, sure, you guys can do that. So we did. We made 3 episodes. We only had 3 weeks to create 3 episodes. That kind of tells you the quality of the cartoon was not real high. But it was basically one of the funnest things I ever worked on, because it was me and a group of my friends, and we wrote it and we voice acted it, and it was we just had a blast. So that was probably one of the funnest ones that I've been on for sure.
Sorry, I'm cheating and looking up more of your stuff while on my cell phone at the same time.
So nobody knows who I am, so it doesn't matter. Fine. Totally fine.
If you were to do a cartoon, like you were saying, what is the ones you model yourself after? Are you like a Family Guy, a Bob's Burgers? Or are you like, oh God, what is it called? BoJack Horseman, stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other ones. I don't know a ton of them.
Yeah, we took a few notes from Family Guy. Some of the cutaway gags is probably some of my favorite stuff in Family Guy. And what I think is kind of interesting with not just Family Guy, but also The Simpsons is that you can watch one of those episodes and you start thinking back on all the stuff that's happened in like a 20-minute episode. And you're like, dude, we've covered so much ground story-wise in this episode. I forgot we even, because they'll do like a callback to something that happened earlier in the episode. And you're like, holy crap, I forgot that was even in the episode. So I think that their ability to be able to tell a story and kind of hold your attention, even though it's only 20 minutes, and tell such a small, and in such a small time, such a massive story, I think is pretty cool. Rocky and Bullwinkle, I just saw that comment. You know, I watched Rocky and Bullwinkle a little bit, but as a kid, I enjoyed it. I think I liked Bugs Bunny more, though. I was a big Bugs Bunny fan.
Me too. Animaniacs and all those things. That's what we grew up with. There's actually a Mandela effect with the Animaniacs as well. I don't know if you've heard that one.
And he was singing the song earlier, Animaniacs.
Was he singing it?
Well, it's the song that never ends is the song that I remember from Animaniacs.
And actually, that is a song that started as a 1970s, 60s, something like that. And it was on PBS, and it was a lamb chop that was in a sock puppet that sang it. I knew I'd get
that.
you.
I remember lamb chop. Yeah, I forgot about that.
That's why I was like, oh God, I could sing this song. Like, she's like, sing a song. I'm like, I could do this one. And then I made up, Bob is our guest on Fridays. Ilsa was like, fuck Brandon, I'm gone. Like, did you see that? How quick she did that? Like, geez. I did. I made fun of South Africa too much, I guess, you know? But Bob comes on and we have his song, Get Your Motor Running. So Bob never wears pink. He's a Harley guy. His motorcycle is Bullwinkle. His trailer behind him is, what's the girl's name? Whatever. It's, Penelope is what I'm going to say, just because it goes with it. And that's like, so that's why he makes these. He's a big Rocky and Bullwinkle fan. So that's fun. Animaniacs was a great show. Yeah. So have you noticed that even in and this is me, like, just thinking off the top of my head, my questions are like, whatever now, I'm having fun with you. Like, with The Simpsons and stuff, a lot of people look at The Simpsons and you're in film. How do you feel about people thinking The Simpsons are like time travelers and they know like things because they had the Trump stuff? They've had all these other things. How do you feel on that as a videographer?
I think that basically they're not able to read the future, but they do understand culture. And that kind of goes back to that comedic observation side of things where they're able to just kind of basically take things that have happened and basically add them together and say, what would be the possible outcome of this? And I think that they're just accurate in being able to read culture. And I don't necessarily think that it was like they got lucky with the escalator thing. And I remember that blowing my mind when I saw that. I was like, what the heck, dude? That was like prophetic. But I think they got lucky in that. But I think that for the most part, you know, or maybe Trump was trolling us all. I don't know. Because maybe he saw the episode and he was like, let's reenact that episode.
He did. It came out later. It was a troll because in the Simpsons one, they drop one of the
the sign.
And they had to keep. Yeah, and the sign that goes behind him that drops is done specifically the same way. Comes out later, whether Trump was behind it or not, his people were doing it, and they set it up just like that. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Like,
that makes a lot more sense rather than them just getting lucky. But yeah, I think that's their ability to kind of read culture. And I think that you look at South Park. South Park is kind of another one of the corners of comedy kingdom that is just like, we don't really care. We're going to do and say whatever we want. And I appreciate that about them. You know, I may not always necessarily agree with some of the things that they're saying, but like I said before, I don't have to agree with what they're saying in order for them to be allowed to say it. So if I can somehow protect them and their ability to say those things, then I'll do whatever I can. And I'm hoping that this documentary will play a small part.
Fernando, great comment here, and the episode with the virus. Did you see the South Park of the virus, the pandemic?
I didn't see that episode, no. But what was that about?
Oh my gosh, it is probably one of the funniest ones I've ever watched, because I'm not the biggest South Park fan, but everybody kept talking about it. I'm like, all right, so because this is a cultural phenom and my parents seem to know about it, I should look into it, you know?
Right.
So I looked into it, and it's all about the pandemic. And it's everything going on, but they don't pick on one side, the right, the left, all of that. They pick on everything. Right. And I think that's what makes it so funny, because the minute you make one joke about like, oh, it's fake, oh, it's real, and like how polar opposite everything is and what they're fighting about, I think South Park does a great job of letting us laugh about these things. Do you think that with cancel culture, and then Elsa, I'm sorry, I'll be quiet for you because I'll do more push-ups. Do you think every 20 minutes to 30 minutes I have to do 22 push-ups to do it? Gotcha. Do you think that with cancel culture, that shows like The Simpsons, South Park, Family Guys, man, are going to be canceled in time because people aren't going to want to have the conflicting views, as that would be, the fighting of what it is and creating these types of conflicts?
That's kind of my fear, and that's kind of another reason why that I'm trying to do this documentary, and hopefully people will get a chance to see it. Is that I'm afraid that could happen, and it's kind of happened in a small way with a couple of shows that I really love. One being Community. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, but that, to me, that's like one of the funniest shows, man. And so I'm a huge Dan Harmon fan. I think the guy, he can be a little bit depressed from time to time, but for the most part, I'm a big Rick and Morty fan as well. So, I think I love Rick and Morty, and I love that they can get, oh, there you go. Nice. Pickle Rick. Which is funny because I remember when that episode came out, the Pickle Rick episode, and I'm like, this has got to be the craziest thing they've ever done. And I'm thinking it's going to be probably a really big thing. And then all these T-shirts, everything's come out. Pickle Rick. If you haven't seen Rick and Morty, Pickle Rick's a good episode. And so, but yeah, I think that Community had one, which was it was like actually my favorite episode, which was the Dungeons and Dragons episode. You remember that one, Brandon? And so, like,
yes.
The Dungeons and Dragons episode was probably one of my favorite episodes, and they took it off the air because Chang, the character, I can't remember the actor's real name, but he's showing up as a dark elf, and he was basically, though they considered blackface, I guess, but that wasn't even, now they did make reference to it, and in the actual show, kind of like saying that's not what this is. But that still wasn't enough for cancel culture. They wanted that taken out. So if you go to that season, you cannot find that episode anymore. They've removed it from Netflix. Now, I went in my moment of protest, I went on Amazon and I bought that episode. And I'm like, you will not take this episode away from me. I will own it, and I will be able to watch it when I want.
But how funny is it that the best episodes are always the darkest? It's always the darkest episodes that you gravitate towards, like the things that make really go, when they say it, make you cringe. And then those are the ones that right. was brilliant. It's always like that. I saw I think it was on Facebook somewhere that they're going to make a real life movie of Rick and Morty. Do you think
really?
That's a good, do you think that's a good idea? I don't know how true it is, guys. Do not believe everything you read on the internet, but I did see it. So I was thinking, I don't know if it will be as cool as the okay, so my daughter just comes in and she goes like, that's the truth. They are making one.
Oh my gosh. I hope they don't run it, because I love that show.
Okay,
I think it's better as an animation. That's just my opinion. I mean,
yes,
you can do so much
that
more.
will be my opinion as well. I don't think they will get the magic that they've got in the animation. I don't think they'll be able to pull that through on a movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
they got super meta there for a while. But I really enjoy that show specifically. It's probably one of my favorite cartoons on right now. But I'm also into anime. But I think that the thing that's interesting about anime, and it's not, I think the humor in anime is kind of strange. Maybe it's like a translation thing. Maybe, I don't know.
Yes.
I think it's funny though. But I really enjoy anime for the stories, and a lot of the stories have a lot of really deep meaning to them, and so I really like animation. I feel like animation is like a really good vehicle for telling stories, because you can do so much more with animation that you could never do in real life. And Rick and Morty, I don't know how that even play out, to be honest with you.
No, I would like to go and watch it. They say it's the grandfather from Back to the Future. So he's a good character that can play, I think that can play the grandpa very well. So
that was actually who they based it off of originally.
Say again?
That's who they originally based the story off of. It was supposed to be Marty from Back to the Future, and they switched it to Morty, probably just trying to keep from getting sued, be my guess. But,
I didn't know that.
But yeah, that's probably why they're talking about casting him.
You see, in South Africa, we just watch the things. We don't bother to see where it comes from. It's like, oh, something new. Let's just watch it. I wanted to ask you, do you have a question, Brandon?
I just want to ask. Mine will be. It's a combination. So mine is really quick. You said you got it off Amazon. Did you get the DVD, the Blu-ray, or the digital? Because rumor has it that even if you own the digital nowadays, if it gets removed, they'll be able to remove it from unless you like download it and put it on like a backup drive or something. You know what I mean? So if you left it in your
digital, but yeah, I would go back and buy it again, and just so I can have the physical copy for sure.
You get what I'm saying? That's all I wanted to ask. I will shut my face now, Elsa. I'm so sorry. Please don't kill me. She trains sharks as a hobby. So please, no, like.
He knows like wow, he's alive.
Hold on. Do you want me to do the whole?
I don't train sharks. I do.
She's in South Africa. So my way of introducing her is, she slides down a giraffe in the morning out her window like Fred Flintstone and goes right into the water. And she literally goes and teaches sharks how to be dolphins. All right, I'll shut up now.
That sounds like a comedy.
So yeah, great whites are prolific down there, right?
They are. They've actually got shark cage diving and all those kind of things along the coast. That's not something that I will do, because I've never wanted to be in a cage and white sharks looking at me like I'm their dinner. I don't think that is something that will make me very happy. So a lot of other people do it, but that's not something that I will do.
It's like a reverse zoo, right? Like, I mean, the sharks are coming to see the human exhibit, because you're like you're in the cage. They're not.
Yeah.
So it's like a reverse zoo.
Under the ocean, it's like, do you want to go see all the humans? Come, let's go.
They dumped another one. Quickly, come over here. This one stinks. Like, all right, I'm sorry, Elsa. You had a question.
I just wanted to know, what are some big names that you are featuring in your documentary, and where can we watch it, and when will it be finalized to watch?
We're working with a very, very small platform right now that's going to be airing it, and they're funding the project. I think it's rediscoveredtv.com, I believe. But we're going to probably look for distribution with this other platform. So they'll probably air it for a little while on their platform, and then they'll probably distribute it if there's any interest out there. It'll probably be done. I'm hoping it'll be done the end of first quarter of 2022, hopefully. So maybe the beginning of summer, somewhere in there. So far, the biggest names have been, Steve Byrne was a pretty big name. That's how you say his name. I heard you saying you weren't sure how to pronounce it.
I struggle with everybody's names.
if you've ever actually listened to his comedy, he can say some stuff that's quite offensive. But he was one of the interviews that was like, I don't care. I'm not adjusting my act to, cater to these people. And the other Jamie Kennedy was the other one that we interviewed, and he was down here. And what's interesting is, like, since we're here in Florida, we have Side Splitters, which is like maybe 45 minutes down the road. It's an A-rated club, and so a lot of big names come through this area already. So we've traveled a little bit to go get interviews from people, but we're working on a couple. Actually, Dave Chappelle was on my list, and I was like wanting to interview him about cancel culture. And then I saw something in Variety come out saying that he was also going to be working on his own cancel culture documentary. And then I started thinking about this Netflix thing, and I was like, mark my words, if it's true that he is working on his own documentary, he did that on purpose so that he had content for his documentary. That's my theory, at least. I mean, he made like $50 million with Netflix for the 3 specials I think he did for them. Was it only 3? So this is his last special, and he's made his 50 million bucks. So he's just like, I don't care.
If you come to Ohio, I won't say that I can introduce you to Dave Chappelle, but I will tell you, I know his favorite restaurant that he eats at and exactly how to get to the town that he always goes to, that he lives in. He's honestly probably one of the nicest guys too. Like, he lives in a small town. I read that same article in Vanity or something like that. My favorite, he's like, the white women in this town are the sexiest in the country, and that's why I stay here. And I'm like, that is hilarious. Like, thank you, Dave. That made me laugh so hard. Is there other comedians or non-comedians, like, I'm going to have some fun with this, politicians even, that maybe you'd want to interview with cancel culture? I picture like Anthony Weiner. Like, he's just the first name that came to my head. He's not a politician that's known for anything good, but like, there's a lot of politicians that have had a lot of problems. There's a lot of actors. There's a lot of people who have written books, and cancel culture has been canceling a lot of different things because of differences. Have you thought of anybody other than a comedian that you'd want to interview as well? And what would be another comedian that you'd want to get on? That way I get 2 questions.
Yeah, no, I think we had talked about like being a little more broad with it. And there is I'm trying to remember the name of the documentary. It's on HBO, on the actual streaming service. And I can't remember the name of it, but I started watching it the other night, and it was like taking more of a broad approach to cancel culture. And it was talking about specifically how people have their lives ruined on social media in a matter of days because of cancel culture. And they don't even really need to be famous, really, necessarily. They can just be, out there living life. And so I think that at some point we have to start having a conversation about it. And I would really enjoy having a conversation with people who think cancel culture is a good thing. And that's the thing that we haven't been able to find yet as far as interviews. I'd like to meet somebody, even if it was a comedian. It doesn't have to be a comedian. But then I was also thinking it would be interesting to have a comedian have a conversation with somebody in real life about cancel culture, and them kind of have not necessarily a debate, but have a casual conversation about that. I think that would kind of make for a fascinating discussion. And so I think that to answer the other question about who I would really like to interview, Joe Rogan he was on our list as well. And what's interesting about him is that he used to be a stand-up comic, also an MMA fighter. I mean, you look at his career and he's done so many things, and now he made the sale to Spotify for his podcast. And it's like, I don't know if they have him on a short leash, like if he would even be allowed to be on the documentary, even if he wanted to be. I don't know. He's still saying things about the virus that I feel like are cancelable offenses, but he's still saying them. So Spotify, they may disagree with some of the stuff. I heard that they removed some of his actual past episodes when they brought his catalog over, which a lot of people were upset about. And so he would be a really good interview because I think that he spans a lot of different audiences and a lot of different he has a lot of the same kind of feelings about cancel culture that kind of echo my own feelings. But like I said, it would be nice to have someone like him talking with a person who thinks cancel culture is a positive thing and a virtuous thing. That's the thing, is like people thinking that they're doing society a service, that they're not trying to hurt people. They're just trying to teach people lessons so that they can become better, more well-adjusted humans, I think. But I don't know why the idea that it's okay to destroy a person's career to teach them a lesson is okay, I guess. I'm a little confused at that point, because I feel like, I don't know. Johnny Depp. Yeah, for sure. Johnny Depp's a good example for real.
I also wanted to read Panda's comments, so I'm glad you put it up there. We're in sync. Vibes are on, baby. The worst thing is when people get cancelled over tweets they've made years ago, when the social climate was completely different, and or when they were still immature teenagers and such. I agree with that. I actually don't feel like people should be censored in what they're saying, especially I think a lot of, well, all humans, or 99% of humans, use comedy to deal with things that are difficult. I mean, in South Africa, it's an ongoing thing. If something bad happens, it's like 10 seconds later and everybody's got a joke for it. I mean, they raid in they raid in Durban. They raid the shops and everything when they go in protest and set tires alight, and it's chaos and everything. And it's not 2 seconds later and somebody's got a meme up that everybody can relate to. It's like, you see which meme is the best, who can share the best meme. I mean, I think that humor helps a lot with things like that, and I really hope that your documentary opens up some eyes for the people. Do you have any other projects that you are working on at the moment, or are you only working on your documentary?
I'm working on a pitch for a sci-fi project. We're working on a pitch for a sci-fi project's probably the most. We actually were working on a Western that I wanted to film in like Montana, but we had an investor for that, and then COVID hit, and the investor ended up losing a big client, and so he wasn't able to fund the project. But that's just kind of the way it goes, you know. I mean, you're working on things and you get pretty far down the road, and then in the last minute things fall apart. So yeah, I got a couple of things, and then I'm also working on a course to teach people how to make their first feature film. And so I've been staying busy with that, and trying to also build a YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is mainly for people who want to know more about filmmaking. It's not really an entertainment sort of channel. We talk about how to write screenplays and those kinds of things. So I think for the most part, you know, that's keeping me really busy. And then I've got commercial work that I've got going on too. So yeah. Well, thanks guys for having me on the show. I don't know if this is the end of my time or whatever, but.
No, I'm sorry. You have 15 more minutes if you don't mind.
Okay.
Sorry. I was trying to pull all your stuff in, so I didn't not get your advertising in there. I want to make sure I got it.
Yes, Brandon and we have this relationship where we talk over each other. So sometimes we either talk together or not one of us says anything. So sorry if you think your interview is over, but it's actually Brandon's turn to ask.
I know. I was clicking buttons, and I'm like, "Come on, open! I need to get back." And I'm on mute and everything. I'm like, "Oh crap!" Like it totally. So sorry about that, Chris.
No, you're good.
So with that, I was looking at your website, and this is where I was trying to set it up. Is I wanted to show everybody what you've done and the awards you've won. These were fun. I had fun just like doing this and catching everybody's attention. So your films here that you've won awards for, the Covet. Yeah, the Covet. I kept wanting to call it the Covenant, and I knew that wasn't right. Yeah. But like when you make a movie and all that, what are some of the biggest struggles you have? Is it the writing? Is it the funding? Is it getting people to go see it? Like how, when you make the movie you make, how do you know that what your target audience is to be able to make sure you hit your points?
I think definitely it's always funding. Funding's always the thing that most filmmakers struggle with, unless they have a rich uncle or a rich daddy. Which there are those people too that will just like, I know one person in particular, and they were wanting to do like a period piece during colonial times, and their family owned a cattle ranch out in Texas. So they had as much money as they wanted at their disposal for that kind of a project. And so it was like, but most of us normal peasants don't have that. I was raised with money. Let's put it that way.
I 100% know what you mean on that. Ask Elsa. We talk about that daily. It's funding is one of the big ones.
Yeah, you got to get creative, and I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned through this is that money doesn't solve problems, creativity does. And so that's really what we have to remember when we think that, like, even not, it doesn't even have to be a movie. If your listeners are listening, they're thinking about whatever that thing is they want to do and that they think that they need money to be able to do, probably you can do it without money. You just have to like get creative and try to figure out. Cause I feel like sometimes money, I've actually heard interviews with people in Hollywood that say that they had a budget and then the studio says, we'll give you more than you want for your budget. We'll give you like 30% more. And they're like, we don't want 30% more, because what happens with films when they get to a certain level on budget and they've got a lot of disposable money is they'll just hire people for the sake of hiring them. And so then they have bloat, which is like people standing around not doing anything. You also get too many cooks in the kitchen, where you have, a particular creative direction that they're wanting to go, but then there's like 5 other people that are like, I don't think that's a good idea. And so then you end up compromising the overall vision of the project just to basically keep the peace with these extra people that really shouldn't even be on the project to begin with. And if there wasn't money to pay them, they wouldn't be there. And so they actually turned down the extra money and they said, no, we don't want the extra 30%. We just want what we asked for. And that actually saved the project, they felt like. And so, yeah, money doesn't solve everything.
That just cracked me up. Sorry, it was the comment. I'm great at standing around and not doing anything. Someone should hire me already.
I'm good at that as well.
Thank you, Panda.
That was a good joke.
That was. Panda comes with these our audience tries to get me to laugh hysterically on air because I will lose myself. I'll just laugh and just start Elsa, do you have a question, or am I able to go?
And I've got a question. In the industry that you are, in the entertainment industry and working with, so I'm going to tell you something. We interview bands, South African metal bands, and we usually ask the guys the question that is in the industry, what is the one thing that they will change in the industry that they don't like what's going on now? What is the one thing that you will change if you had the means to change it? Something that's in the industry, but that's not working properly.
I feel like the biggest problem with the industry is nepotism. I think there's a really big problem in that, because you have people who work really hard, they bust their tail, they work on their craft, they do everything that they need to be doing. But in the end, you realize that you get passed over for somebody who daddy was an executive producer on the project or whatever. And that spot is then filled by somebody who's not qualified. And so I feel like it is. I actually saw a YouTube interview. I haven't actually had a chance to watch it. Film Courage is the name of the channel. And they interview industry professionals, and this guy was talking about that talent doesn't always equal success in the film industry. And so it's all about, and there's a certain amount of that in every industry, like it's all about who you know. That's the saying that goes around. And there's definitely some truth to it. But I feel like those that have the ability to make those decisions, I wish they would make decisions that were good for the project rather than decisions that are just good for an individual or a particular person. And so if I could change it, that would be like probably that would be one thing that I would change if I could. But I know that that's just the way it is. So you have to do what you can.
In the perfect world one day.
Have you ever made a music video?
Yeah, actually that video, the picture on the front of my website was a music video, and it was actually a comedian that was doing it. It was a spoof that he was doing. And yeah, we did that one, and then we did another one for him. That's Donnie. Donnie's actually with me on this cancel culture project, and he's helping me to set up all the comedians. That's actually why I've gotten access to a lot of these comedians, is that since he's a working comedian, this is something that I've learned, that if you're a working comedian, you can pretty much reach out to any other comedian and say, hey, I'm a working comedian. Do you have a few moments for me to tell you about this project I'm working on? I'd like for you to be a part of. And so classic Donnie. But yeah, I think I did that music video for him, and then I did another music video. Those are really fun to do because I feel like music videos, you can kind of get away with a lot like creative, like it doesn't need to make sense. You know what I mean? Like it can just be whatever.
Right.
So that's a pretty cool genre for self-expression for sure. So I just wish there was more opportunities to do those kind of gigs, because there used to be a lot of money in them back in the 80s and 90s, and then they just stopped paying out as well. I mean, they're still getting done, but the number of projects that are available, the big artists that are actually able to pay well, are very few and far between. Mm-hmm. And you kind of run into that nepotism thing that I was talking about. You can get tons of bands who want to do a music video, they just don't have any money.
That seems to be the theme with a lot of businesses, you know, like no matter what industry you're in. Guys, once again, go subscribe. Chris, you're welcome back anytime, man. We will be making sure to send you these Spotify, Apple, all the downloads. We'll be sending that in a little bit. Make sure we include the marketing. Please don't hesitate to share with your community, because you're about that light and that positivity, just like we are, and we don't want to see you get canceled. So, guys, help us keep spreading this positivity, and let's change the world. Thanks, guys.
Thanks. See you guys.